we're going to dive into the basics of basically what this role is in an audio team, and where you can, what things you can typically see yourself doing in this role as a technical sound designer, and what steps you can take to basically get into this role. So it's kind of, I can't really detach myself from this talk in a way where I have to talk about some of the things I've done, and it might not apply for everyone, but you're hopefully by the end of this talk, you are primed with a lot of information related to technical audio design, and hopefully it gives you some clarity regarding this role. Is it suitable for you? Do you want to get into this role and apply for upcoming jobs, or basically the whole package? So let's start with briefly mentioning the table of contents. So I'll briefly start with how I perceive the game audio workflow. And then I'll start talking about the role of technical audio designer and basically where this role would shine in a particular game audio workflow. And then we'll try to know more about why this role is at an intersection between audio design and audio programming. The spectrum of technical skills to pursue if you are targeting to work in this role, because it can be really overwhelming. And I want to assure you by shedding some light that you don't need to be an expert in all the skills, but you need to be sort of like a generalist. And I know someone who did a talk last week, I think, about how to be a generalist, how being a generalist or something is actually good for your career. So we'll talk about the spectrum of technical skills to pursue. We'll also talk about the essential soft skills that I feel would really help you shine in this role. And then I'll talk about a few FAQs I've received over the time through Twitter or through conversations with different people. So let's go and let's start to talk about a typical workflow in game audio. So typically I see the workflow divided into 4 parts. The first part of the workflow is audio production. So at this stage, you're basically conceptualizing the ideas. It's maybe pre-production before the game has been developed. There's the idea of the game, and as an audio team, you're conceptualizing what sounds need to go in. You start recording the sounds, and either you're doing field recordings, or you're doing studio recordings, or you're even maybe outsourcing some of the dialogues from different studios, or maybe you're grabbing licenses for different libraries that might be useful for the current project you're working on. Then the second part is the asset creation. So creating assets from the recordings libraries. Sometimes this is also outsourced. So I know certain studios like Site Global does dialogue editing for different game studios, so that could be one of the things involved in asset creation, cleaning up dialogue recordings or manipulating sounds so that they fit the audio aesthetic of your game, and then exporting them for implementation from your DAW or getting it from the outsourced team. Then the third stage is the implementation of these assets. And basically, you're using the created audio assets in audio systems that you've created in the game. And basically, you're refining them through your implementation. So you're doing some maybe real-time manipulation as well, using least number of assets to create most number of variations, randomizing pitch or doing real-time manipulation, basically. So that usually happens at the implementation stage. And then the last and final one is optimization. So making sure your audio complies with the performance and memory budgets of the game. So audio team would usually be allotted a particular runtime budget. Let's say audio team is allotted 256 MB on the RAM that they can use at any point of time, and you need to make sure that the sound banks or whatever audio you're using at any moment of time does not exceed that budget. So optimization is the final step before shipping. And yeah, so if we think of it as a spectrum from left to right, it's a lot of different people could be doing these jobs. First of all, each step in this workflow is iterative and has its own feedback loop. So audio production team might have its own feedback loop where they go, well, these assets don't really. So you've produced some assets, you've created those assets, and you've implemented them in the game, but now they don't sound as good as you thought they would. So you go back, you feed it back to the audio production team that, well, I need, or if you're in the role, you say, I need these assets to be replaced, they're not working well. And, so each step in the workflow is iterative. And hello, Aaron, nice to see you. And it has its own feedback loop as well. In smaller teams, usually a single person could be responsible for multiple steps in the workflow. So, for example, if it's an indie team, there might be just one person doing all of this, and maybe two people are in the team. One's an audio programmer and one's an audio designer. So audio designer is taking care of audio production and asset creation, and then audio programmer is taking care of implementation and optimization. In bigger teams, however, like AAA studios, responsibilities are usually shared between different people. So I want to touch on this point a bit more, which I'll do in a later slide by talking about the organization chart for the audio team at Frontier. So we'll talk about it a bit more, how these responsibilities are shared. So talking about the different responsibilities, and if you visualize it as a spectrum from left to right, where audio production and asset creation is more of audio design's responsibility, and then implementation and optimization is kind of audio programming's responsibility. So now we're getting close to the role of a technical audio designer, and this is why a lot of people say that technical audio design falls between the intersection of audio design and programming, meaning asset creation and implementation is something that is handled a lot by a technical audio designer, and it's like you're a bit on both sides. So you're collaborating with audio design team to create the said assets. You're giving them direction to let them know how best to create the assets, and so that you can implement them. Then you're implementing them in the game engine through, either blueprints or C++ or C#. And when you need more support, you're basically escalating to audio programmers, and you're asking them for support in terms of, if you want something that's beyond your skill level and it lies into audio programming, you basically collaborate with audio programming. And so you're basically collaborating with audio design and audio programming, and you're bridging the gap between them. So that's in a nutshell, that's how you would define a technical audio designer. So a collaborator and someone who's bridging the gap between the audio design team and audio programming team. So typically this role is seen more in big budget studios where they can afford to have a specialist in their team. So you'll mostly see AAA studios or, AA, big budget indie, having technical sound designers in that team. Now, I want to talk about the audio team at Frontier. Because I sort of cannot detach myself from what. So you have to see things in context. The skills that I had at the time of applying for my role at Frontier, they were exactly the skills they were looking for, and I got lucky. And they were like, "Yeah, fine. You have Unreal and Wise experience, so welcome to the team." So yeah, different companies will have different requirements of technical audio designer and what they expect them to do, and we'll touch upon it a bit later on. So the audio team at Frontier is nearly 60 people strong. We have 60 people in the audio team, which is massive. And we have different departments. So there's the audio director at the top, and then you have different teams, design teams. The design team is basically all the audio designers, and then creative services is basically all the people who are doing linear stuff, trailers, some music here and there. And then production team is audio producers. They're managing our schedules and making sure we're doing our tasks on time and we have enough time to do our tasks. And then there's the technology department, which is where I am in this cog, this machine. So we have different people working in the technology department as well. There's the audio tools programmer, there's audio programmer, audio automation engineer, technical audio designer, which is me, and audio testers. I'm currently working on the F1 Manager series, and I usually collaborate with a lot of people from different teams. So I'm collaborating between the design team, technology, collaborating with audio automation engineers to get faster workflows. And yeah, so audio, I wish I had time to talk about that, but in short, audio automation engineer is basically creating automation tools for us where we can automate, uh, for example, creating a complex voice structure in game with 2000 audio files, and the automation team does it with script. So they use Python in WAPI, and they make it possible to import those 2000 audio files in different switch containers in less than 10 minutes. And you don't have to do anything, which is very cool. And yeah, so this is the entire team at Frontier. And now I'm going to talk about what specifically a technical audio designer may or may not be asked to do. When I say may or may not, it's because I've literally pulled all of these keywords from different job postings which are live currently. So you can go and look at any job posting, technical sound designer, and find out what they're asking for. One of the top things for a technical audio designer to be doing is to create, optimize, and maintain audio systems in game by collaborating between different disciplines. So you might be talking to audio programmers, you might be talking to gameplay programmers, you're talking to tech art, you're talking to animation people. So a lot of collaboration, and then after that collaboration, you need to come up with a solution which is optimized for everyone, each team. So that's one of the top role requirements. Actually, these are not in any order as well. So don't think that one means one is the top requirement. I just meant this one is the most asked for. And then the other thing is to incorporate best practices of workflows. A lot of people say workflow, but what exactly is a workflow? And I talked about it briefly at the beginning. So a workflow would be, for a technical audio designer, workflow would be asset creation to implementation. How can you speed up the process of being able to sorry, I lost my train of thought. But a technical audio workflow would be to speed up the asset creation and implementation in such a way that your iterations are faster. You're able to test new sounds. So, even maintaining voice structures, creating performance blueprints, and then also providing asset naming conventions to audio designers so that there's a proper naming convention going on in your project. Troubleshoot. This is something you will do a lot, because more often than not, systems break, and when they do, you need to be able to figure out what's going wrong. Something going wrong with the state in why is the API call isn't setting the state to what it needs to be set to. So can you use a profiler and try to debug through voice monitor or through GameSync monitor or even game object viewer? So you're basically troubleshooting audio systems and even the automation tools provided by your other team members. Then next, you need to be aware about the audio mixing standards, loudness standards, memory budgets in games, and performance of audio systems in real time. yeah, if you don't have too much knowledge but you're aware about these things, it's a possible thing in your interview to be saying yes, you are aware about it, meaning at some point you will have to. But usually for junior roles, you don't need to have this understanding too much. But if you're joining at a mid-level, I would say this is a very essential thing to be knowing about memory budgets and performance of audio systems in real time. So if you're particularly using middleware like Wise, you should know the in and outs of being able to profile and debug in real time. Also, you can uh, sort of incorporate custom or third-party tools in the workflow, which makes the iterative process faster. So, you're using Repack or Revise or LKC tools or NVK workflow to automate things, to make your iterative process faster. Because as you might know, studios are usually on a very strict deadline to be pumping out content, and then the faster you can create and implement, and the faster you can automate it, it makes the iterative process faster. So I'm just reading at the comments, and I'll take the questions at the end, but I'll try to go up in the chat and answer your questions. So also, one of the requirements would be to be familiar with latest audio tech in video games. So, you should have command of at least one game engine like Unreal, Unity, and audio middlewares like Wise or Fmod, Reaper, creative plugins, sound toys, whatever. You can also use default plugins if you want. Don't. But the main thing is to know about audio manipulation, and then using that to do it either in real time, or you could do it in the DAW. And this is where now I'll talk more about how the role is at the intersection of audio design and audio programming. So there's a whole pool of skills from audio design, which we've already touched upon. So I don't think I need to go into more details. I think we're doing good for time, but I don't want to put too much time on this. I'm going to leave the presentation as a PDF at the end, and then people can read through it on their own time. But this is, basically talking more about a pool of skills you can have. You don't need to have all of them, but it helps if you have a level of expertise in some of these skills. And then there's a pool of skills from audio programming, which I'll talk about a bit. First one of them is your basic experience in scripting. So I feel you should have some kind of scripting language. It could be anything. You could have basic experience in C++. You could have basic experience in C#, Lua, Python. So C# or C++ is a definite plus, because it makes it easier for you to collaborate with audio programmers, because you know your own limitations when it comes to programming, and which is why it's a basic experience. You should be able to collaborate with the audio programmer and try to explain what you actually need. And again, aware about all of the performance and memory and optimization things, and again, automation tools available for workflows. So, using Repack, LKC, NVK, Revise. I will briefly talk about Revise in a bit because I want to show, practically. I won't do a demo, but I'll show you my Reaper project and my Unreal project for. By the way, this is a personal project. It's not related to my work at Frontier, but I wanted to provide some context for everyone so they can see a of bit of my workflow. So now let's get into a bit of nitty-gritty details. So I'll take an example scenario, and I'll just briefly talk about how usually this is done. So let's say, for example, all the physical materials in the world need to be tagged so that we can produce sounds for footsteps, for example, or impact sounds for the bullet. And now it's my job as a technical sound designer to basically collaborate with other disciplines. And the first step to that is basically going to the art team and saying, hey, if you're placing a road somewhere in the world, I want you to tag the material that you're using for the road with the asphalt material that I've created in the project. And this way, every time they lay a road, the material is already tagged, and I don't have to do anything from my side. So art team takes care of tagging materials. Let's say, for example, concrete or metal, etc., etc. There are many different types of materials, and if they're doing this while they're doing the level design or designing the world, you don't need to do any extra step for it to make sounds for you, except for the parts I'll talk about that are coming up. So the next step would be either I go to an audio designer and tell them, well, I need sounds for these footsteps or whatever, and then, or I create my own assets in Reaper using audio libraries to, just quickly check in the game. I want to implement the system in the game, and then I want to quickly check if my implemented system is working. So I might use placeholder assets, and because of my workflow, I'm able to sort of do faster iterations, which I'll talk about in the next slide. So now all I'm doing is I'm implementing the sounds in the game using blueprints or any programming language, or I ask for support from audio programmers for an optimized solution. And then there you go. The sounds are playing for the system. So that's one of the example scenario where, you're collaborating with different disciplines to make an audio system work. The audio system in this case is the footstep system. Next, we'll talk about how we can improve, not how we can, I'll talk about an example scenario where I'm improving my workflow for iterations by using different tools. So let's say UI sounds need to be implemented and tested quickly in the game. So I go to Reaper, I create a placeholder first iteration of assets in DAW to quickly implement in the game. I've created this in Reaper. I'll briefly talk about the different tools I've used for this. in my Reaper project, but I'm using LKC Navigator to solo sounds, and then I've created the regions. I'm using Revise to create a Wise structure directly in my Wise project. So what I do is I use the region render matrix in Reaper, and then I'm using Revise to create a structure for me automatically in Wise. Once the structure is created, I create the corresponding events, and then I implement the sounds in the game. Now, if the audio designer comes to me and says, "Well, I need to change this UI sound. Are you able to change?" So, since I've already implemented the sounds in the game, I've created the system um, for it to sort of play the sound. I can just go back in my Reaper project. I can replace the sound there, use the automation tool to replace it appropriately in the structure for me, and then basically test it in the game by generating sound banks. So that's one of the scenarios of improving workflow for iterations. It makes it easy for me to test the sounds again. And yeah, so I'll briefly dive into my Reaper project. I love using sub projects, and because it means I can use one project for all the sounds in the game. And yeah, on the left, you can see here there's the LKC navigator, and this project has. Uh, does anyone know how the affects revise? I could talk about it a bit now since I'm already here. But if you, let's say I open this sub project, and you can see there's a whole list of sounds here. I can solo them to sort of navigate through them. And when I press right click, I can see the different layers, uh, and then character, just going through different sounds, even though they're on the same chain and masters. When I use the navigator it helps me to solo sounds in a big project, you know. Uh, so yeah, I have this right here. I've created the regions to, for different variations, and I'm using region render matrix here to sort of create a structure in Revise. So right now you can see it's automatically going to my UI work unit, UI folder, and it's going to the map pick hover random container. Let's say, for example, I have this sound and I want to include that. So now you can see this is going to replace the sound for me when I press transfer to voice, and this automates the things for me. This means I've taken one step away, which is when uh, I don't need to render. So the asset creation and implementation sort of has come close, Uh, I don't need to render the sounds separately. The sounds will get added to Wise automatically when I do this. So let's say I check these. I'm using region render matrix, and yeah, you can just keep seeing how it's totally just creating structure for me very fast. And when I press transfer to Wise, it basically takes 10 seconds to put all of these sounds into the game. I will also share my why structure here. Yeah, it just makes it easy for me to import assets into Wise, where I don't have to go import audio files, or I don't have to drag and drop files into this to basically make it work. And this is basically an example of automating your workflow. Even though it's a very small example, it is an example of automating your workflow. Cool. So as you can see, there's a ton of technical skills that you can pursue in this role. And I'm going to the next slide, where I recommend everyone to have experience in at least one software of the following categories of skills. Again, this is my subjective recommendation. You don't have to take it, please take it with a grain of salt if you do. And yeah, the responsibilities can actually differ from company to company. So don't come grab my throat saying, well, these are the skills you said I should learn. So yeah, it can differ. And honestly, you keep learning the skills you love, what excites you the most, and eventually, hopefully, you end up somewhere where they're looking for the exactly same skills that you possess, basically. So yeah, technical skills, game engines. For sure, you need experience at least in one of the industry standard game engines, which is Unreal or Unity. You need experience in at least one industry standard audio middleware, which is Wise or Fmod. Now, I'm going to let in on a thing which is a general trend. I've observed AAA studios tend to use Unreal and Wise, and indie studios tend to use Unity and Fmod. So whatever suits you, you go for it. I personally went with Unreal and Wise. I spent 2 years learning the skills in Unreal and Wise. I was sort of self-taught. I got introduced to Unreal Engine at university, but then I started learning on my own time, and then I just stuck with Unreal and Wise. I'm not going to lie that I did try gaining experience in Unity and Fmod as well, but I just didn't enjoy it too much, so I just stuck with Unreal and Wise. And then I got to work on an indie project which was made in Unreal Engine, and I convinced them to use Wise. So basically, I got more experience before I joined Frontier, and then it eventually made my portfolio strong enough to land the job at Frontier. You need to be aware of industry standard DAW. And yes, I see a lot of people talking about Reaper in the chat. But yeah, I think Reaper has gained popularity recently, and I've also seen an article by Brian Schmidt where he talks about the top skills asked by employers, and I think about 40 to 45% of job postings will ask for experience in Reaper. So never too late to start. I was an Apple boy, Logic boy all along, even in my university. And then in my final year, I picked up Reaper, and I haven't looked back for sound design, at least. I still use Logic Pro for music production, but I use Reaper a lot for sound design, and it's really improved my workflow. Pro Tools is another one. RX, Isotope, Ozone, Sound Toys, Plugin Knowledge, sound manipulation. all those things. Also, you can have some kind of basic experience in programming languages as well. So C++ is good for Unreal. Again, in context, everything is in context. If you're learning C++, it's most probably going to help you with your Unreal skills. And then if you're learning Unreal, you might as well learn Wise. If you're learning C Sharp, it's more to do with Unity. And if you're learning Unity, I would advise, actually with Unity, you can use both Wise and Fmod. Even with Unreal Engine, you can use both, but most uh, most observed combination is Unity Wise C++, sorry, Unreal Wise C++, Unity Fmod C Sharp, and then Python. You can use Python to do automation workflows in Wise by using WAPI, which is the Wise authoring API. And then you can use Lua basically in Reaper to create your own custom rescripts. And the more skills you have in all of these technical skills, it just improves your chance for an application. So yeah, a lot of skills are demanded, but once you join the company, you can specialize. So I still specialize in Unreal Wise and Reaper. I'll be honest, I don't have much C++ knowledge. I know the basic syntax and I'm able to communicate with an audio programmer, but I don't have much experience in programming languages. But I'm still a technical audio designer. I'm just choosing to specialize in different things. I also do technical music design, so taking care of music design in terms of creating structure in Wise. Cool. I just quickly want to touch on the soft skills. To everyone I just want to let everyone know I'll stay probably for 10 minutes extra because the next talk is not going on for another half an hour after 7, and I started a bit late because I wanted to give chance to everyone to come from Martin's stream. So yeah, I'll hang around for 10 minutes, 15 minutes more after the talk is over, which I'm expecting to finish after a couple of slides. So yeah, soft skills, collaborative. You need to be able to communicate with different disciplines on a daily basis. Sometimes it can get you can get a bit anxious because you don't know completely, whether or not a particular thing is not working. Is it the audio programming team that needs to look at it? Is it the gameplay programming team that needs to look at it? Is it the tech art team that needs to look at it? Is this information available in blueprints? You need to be able to. So yeah, if you're a person who likes to collaborate with a lot of people on daily basis, this is the role for you. You should also have really good interpersonal skills. So being able to communicate effectively as well, and able to seek help when needed. So you need to be, be able to get your point across effectively and accept when you need more help from other people. You're a keen learner, you're keeping up with the latest trends of audio tech in games. Wise 2022.1.4 is out now. UE 5.2 is out now. What's going on with Metasounds? What's the audio system in current audio system in UE, native audio system, what's happening with Unity, what's happening with Fmod. Are you keeping up with all of these trends, and are you bringing that experience into the team? So, you know, and the last one is time management. So being able to deliver results on a quick turnaround, you need to be able to manage your time a lot. And yeah, since you're always on tight deadlines, you need to be able to deliver results. And for being able to deliver the results, you need to talk, you need to communicate with different people, you need to be able to seek help when you want it, you know. Cool. So yeah, a lot of people have over the time since I joined Frontier have reached out to me on Twitter or in some other form in email, and I just wanted to highlight some of the FAQs that uh, I've received over the time. The yeah, this is kind of a chicken or egg situation. How do you gain experience in something without getting a job when the job is asking for an experience? And yeah, this is where I suggest that uh, you should join game jams, seek out game jams, and more importantly, seek out teams in game jams where you can use all of your technical skills. So if you're pursuing a career in, let's say, Unreal, Wise, and C++ and Reaper, are you seeking out game jams where you can test out these skills in real time and collaborate with different people? Uh, Also seek out some indie projects where you might not get paid fully, but you are able to create a unique audio identity of the game and then use that as a as a piece of your portfolio. So this is what I did. I joined, and when I was finishing graduation, I approached a few people who were applying for a funding, and I told them, well, you're working in Unreal. This is what I've worked in the past for my university projects. And if you want a sound designer, I'll be happy to work with you. I joined that team. We got funded. We worked for around 6 to 8 months together. And I got to, mess around a lot with that project where I used uh, the Unreal Wise integration, and yeah, I created a portfolio through uh, through that project, which eventually landed me the role at Frontier. So at Frontier, I actually applied for a graduate audio programmer role, but I got interviewed for as a technical sound designer, and at that time uh, they didn't mind a junior because I had experience. So I joined them as a graduate, and this is very rare that it happens in the industry where you have junior technical, but there are opportunities out there, of course. And then just get your hands dirty with the game engine, and if you can do middleware stuff, that is plus points. How do I demonstrate my experience as a technical sound designer? So I think someone already was asking about how to create a reel and stuff. So yeah, once you join game jams and seek out indie projects or even use demo projects for your reel or for your work, you need to create a demo reel from that entire material, which could be up to 3 minutes long, that demonstrates the audio systems you have created in your project and audio middleware, and how the thing sounds in the game. So it should have this uh, flow where you do a voiceover, you talk about the audio system that you created either in game engine, and then show it in middleware, and then for the next few seconds show how it actually sounds in the game. The tricky part is to have material can um, which can make your chance which can make you stand out. Basically, I talk about it in the next slide. So also, this is again kind of a chicken and egg situation. Do you learn skills according to what jobs require of you, or according to your personal interests? And there is no definite answer here. Enjoy what you're learning, research the requirements in live job postings, and seek out help from mentors or someone senior in the industry. Uh, I actually reached out to a few people when I was at uni, and I asked them, which engine or which middleware should I go for? And they were like, well, if you want to get into AAA, you should try for Unreal and Wise. And that's what I did. And I sort of stuck with it and I enjoyed it. How do I make my application stand out? This is very, very difficult. So whenever possible, use a very refined and polished product to apply for jobs. Yeah, I don't want to discourage people, but uh, it's difficult to demonstrate your skills as a technical sound designer and make it sound good as well at the same time as well. If your project doesn't have depth, where you're just doing robot footsteps and some doors are opening and you're doing interactables, I think it's difficult to make your application stand out in that regard, when it doesn't sound really great. It's sort of a negative point as well. If you're showcasing work which is not top notch or not polished, So yeah, okay. I think we're done with the talk. Still have 4 minutes left from the actual time, but I'm happy to stay longer. And this is the time for Q&A. I'm also going to now scroll through the chat to see any questions in the chat that I might have missed. But I'm gonna, go to the top. Yeah, please start posting questions. So first one I see is from Aditya Gupta. Which software applications are usually used for maintaining the list of assets? Damn, this chat keeps scrolling up when people post. I keep missing it. List of assets for game dev studios. I think spreadsheet or something is used for the assets. I can also move my screen here now. Yeah. Spreadsheet or something to maintain the list of assets. There's another question from Adam. What's the best way to show that you have these technical skills on a reel or a website, which I've already kind of covered in the talk. So next question from Abdullah. What are some of the systems you developed and you're absolutely proud of? Tough question, because I can't really talk about my work on F1 Manager. But since I was talking about my indie project on, um, it was a first-person shooter, and I think I was really pleased with how I was able to manipulate sounds in real time during different sort of abilities, or if, like, for example, there was an ability where when you activate it, it creates a black and white um, uh, black and white. I don't know what the word is, but it visually just changes everything for you in the game. And then uh, I was able to manipulate audio for it in real time using states. And then, yeah, I did a similar thing for when there was an overload of, let's say, um, firing system was such that when you overload it, it um, changes pitch and does some modulation in real time. So yeah, those are some of the systems I'm really proud of. I can't go in many details about my work at Frontier, sorry. How long would you say it takes to panic learn the basics of F1? That is a funny question, Heli. Hope I'm pronouncing your name right. But I would say don't try to panic learn anything, because if they find out you don't have, even after you join a team, you have a probation period. And if they find out you're not up to the mark they expected, you can still lose your job. So I would say don't panic learn. I would say take your own time to learn Fmod, and it can take anywhere between 1 to 3 months, depending on how quick of a learner you are, how much time you're able to dedicate it per week or something. And yeah, a lot of factors there. So take your time, do it slowly, and I'm sure some other job will come up. If you're trying to panic learn to apply for a job, some other job might come along, so don't worry about it. Yeah. Any extra scripts you use on the integration of Wise Reaper besides the audio kinetics integration package? Again, I can't talk about this because it's under NDA, but yeah, we do use a lot of scripts at Frontier. If you want to talk about third-party tools that are available, I would suggest looking at NVK workflow, which improves your workflow inside Reaper. You can also learn LKC tools, which helps with some automation from, going from Reaper to Wise. So yeah, some of the tools I would say is LKC. You can get SWS extension. I hope I answered your question correctly. Sorry. Aaron, nothing too taxing. Going to review this. What's your favorite system language to work in of everything you've covered? Ah, yes. Yes. I love blueprints. I love visual scripting. For some reason, it gives me such joy when I spend a couple of hours designing an audio system, conceptualizing, and then when it finally works in the game and you hear the sounds for the first time, that feeling is magical. I think blueprints in Unreal Engine is my top favorite. system that I like to work with. Sam MJ, for audio workflows, are there any resources you'd recommend? Uh, Resources. I think, yeah, I've basically learned everything by trying to just do things by trial and error. But if you're talking about audio workflows, I would again say NVK, LKC, and there's maybe some Rewise. Those are 2 or 3 tools I can definitely recommend you to look at. Gemma, 3 very quick points. Let's go. What was the list of Reaper plugins you mentioned? Do you have any links for any of them? Yes, I do. Why don't I start posting them? So a lot of people have asked the same question. And so let's first start with Rewise. There's a whole blog on connecting Reaper and Wise, which you should definitely look at here. Let's then talk about LKC. I usually use the navigator. And the thing about LKC is you can try all the tools for free. So there you go. And then I haven't used NVK workflow ever. And also it's paid, but you are free. I'm not sure if it has a free version, but feel free to sort of check them out. NVK tools, LKC tools, and Rewise. There you go. On the soft skills side of things, you mentioned interpersonal skills. Remembering a random person 3 to 4 months ago, definitely. Thank you. Yes, I do remember you from the Women in Games talk. Would you say there's any value in adding, sorry, the chat keeps auto-scrolling. Do you say there's any value in adding commentary to a reel which demonstrates a conscious understanding of the choices you made in a given final product? Yes, you should definitely do that. You should definitely record yourself. You should definitely talk about the system. You should definitely be passionate, totally passionate about when you're talking it as well, because it comes across in the video. And 10 on 10, if I can get a glimpse of what you were thinking while you created the system, 10 on 10, Yeah, I also wanted to share sort of my I'm looking for it on Vimeo. I personally have my own Vimeo reel, and hopefully you don't have to log in to watch this, but yeah, this is the audio implementation reel I used to apply at Frontier, and I got the job. So it worked for me a year and 6 months ago, which is the latest. So yeah, hopefully that reel will give you an idea of how you can do, and I've done the flow exactly how I described it. So you talk about what you've done in the game engine or Wise, then show how it sounds in the game. So hopefully this also answers the question about the systems I'm proud of. I'm very proud of the systems I created for my own reel for the indie project. At what level of audio design expertise a technical audio role possess? Very good question. I mean, you could have expertise, a lot of expertise in audio design, or you could have a basic understanding so that you are able to feedback to the audio designers what's going wrong in the audio. So, for example, if there are clicks in the music track that you've just been provided, you listen to them, you do your own QA, and then you hear the clicks and you go, well, I need these clicks to be fixed. So you either go back to the music composer and tell them, well, these needs to be fixed, or even, let's say you implemented some gun sounds in the game, and then those gun sounds don't exactly fit the aesthetic of the particular sound. You go back to the audio designer and tell them, well, these sounds are not working, and can we have a new set? So yeah, you need to have a basic understanding of how audio design is used for storytelling, and that should get you by in this role. I'm not the greatest sound designer myself, but yeah, I think I carry my own weight in that department. Thanks, Chirag. How can an aspiring technical sound design go from basic robot footsteps to that next level? Yes. Yeah, very good question. I think um, I've already answered this question, but you need to get your hands on a project which will let you do those things. And this is where, if you want to do a project for free, you should agree with the developers before starting the project that you are free to use any material in the project for your own portfolio and thing. And yeah, basically look for projects which have depth in them and where you can uh, test out the different audio systems. Yeah, you got this, Heli. Go for it. Yeah, definitely spend some time on improving your Fmod skills. I wish I had this talk. Thank you, Adam. That means a lot. I hope after this talk, you're able to go back to the drawing board and, hopefully map out something that you want to keep working towards the future. Yeah, I love visual scripting. Yeah, I was talking about it. Sorry, the chat. I'm just going through the chat very late. Blueprints are amazing. You often end up doing it, and that's literally. Yep. Blueprints is like C++, but visual. So it's very fast to test out as well. I don't know if you can answer this, but after I updated Reaper, there is no extensions option in the toolbar, and I can't use Repack or anything. Have you come across this problem? Unfortunately, not. Yeah, I would say try reinstalling. Sorry. Have you written any tools with Python and WAPI that you can talk about? No, I can't talk about, and I haven't written any tools. I'm not sure if you were present at the start of the talk, but we have audio automation engineers who help us to make these tools. So I'm kind of spoiled at Frontier, but I definitely want to, for future, maybe dive into a bit of Python. And yeah, they use Python. If it's in Reaper, they use Lua. If they're using WAPI, they use Python. It's Python. Cool. I hope I've answered everyone's questions. I'm planning to upload my presentation. I'll get in touch with Greg to find out how I can attach my presentation at the end. There is one more question. Brilliant question. Just wondering if you're working remote or in-house and what difference there is between workflows. Well, I work remotely, and I have been working remotely for the past year and a half, and it's amazing. I get so much work done. I'm so much more focused, I feel, for also I have a very healthy work-life balance. I've never been asked to work overtime. When I have worked overtime because I wanted to, I was paid for it at an overtime rate. And yeah, the workload is very, very so because you're using source control and everything and you're in touch with the team all the time, there's not really any difference in workflows except for trying to download everything over VPN. So that's the only thing that takes more time, but everything else just runs fine on the computer. But yeah, cool. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm going to end my stream there. It's been an hour and 16 minutes. Thank you. I meant to mute there, but awesome. All right. See you everyone. Hello, School of Video Game Audio. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining. Thank you, Heli, Abdullah, Daniel, Kingsley, Pavitra, Yannick, Sam, Jax, Renard. See you all. Bye-bye.